How many ways are there to finance terrorism? There are two ways or dimensions to finance terrorism. First one, financing to terrorist acts. Second one, financing to terrorist organizations. Coming to first one, finance to terrorist acts. In this dimension, funds are needed to carry out specific terrorist action. For example, funds are needed to planting a few bombs in some local trains in a city. So for this activity, for planting few bombs, this activity, funds are needed. So here, for finance is given to activities, terrorist activities. So for such actions, funds are not required significantly, or large amounts of funds are not required for terrorist acts, because for purchasing bombs and for performing that terrorist activity, large large amount of funds are not required, large quantum of funds are not required, significant funds are not required. So these activities involve persons in different locations, often different nations. So whoever involved in these activities need not belong to targeted place or targeted locality. Generally, these involved persons are from different locations and different nations. So that's why movements of funds needed across these locations. So funds is transferred to those persons whoever staying in different locations and often different nations. So in this process, movement of funds is needed across these locations. Financing of individual terrorist act need nominal amounts. So it require low amount of funds. For individual terrorist acts, nominal amounts are required or low value amounts are required. So these are usually transferred as personal remittances. So those low value amounts or nominal amounts transferred as personal remittances from the funding locations to the targeted destination. The source of fund could be in cash or from an existing bank account. So these are the remittance, and the beneficiaries could be innocent persons. So for these purposes, for fund transfers, remitters and beneficiaries are innocent persons. So most of the cases, terrorists use innocent persons as remitters and beneficiaries, because these innocent persons do not aware of the real purpose. They do these activities for nominal commissions paid to them. For nominal commissions, those innocent persons do or transfer funds as personal remittances. Due to their low value, these transactions are extremely difficult to notice. So these transfers, these transfers are difficult to find out, difficult to detect, because here low value is involved and also innocent people are involved. That's why it is difficult to notice. Second one, finance to terrorist organizations. Most terrorism activities across the globe are being carried out by organizations. so which are set up for the terrorism purpose. These organizations are linked to higher ideals like religion or political affiliations to such actions. These organizations require large amount of funds or significant funds or large quantum of funds for enrolling, training their cadres, procuring weapons and other ammunitions, building up network, recognition activities, publicity network for mobilizing mass support. So for these activities, the organizations, terrorist organizations require large amount of funds. These organizations do covert operations under certain legitimate activities, typically social work, charitable activities, medical facilities, etc. So these organizations seen as legitimated organizations for conducting social welfare or charitable trust. But inside, these organizations do covert operations for terrorism activities. Outside, they seem like charitable trust. Inside, they do covert operations for terrorism activities. Creating, running, and maintaining the organizations for carrying out terrorist activities require substantial funds or large amount of funds. Terrorist organizations therefore spend considerable efforts and time for raising material resources and funds for meeting the financial requirements for these activities. They spend considerable efforts and time to raise the funds. Many of the organizations are active in several countries. These organizations are active only in one country. Not only active in one country, they are active in several countries. Hence, their financial transactions span across several countries. These terrorist organizations are typically funded by the sympathizers, both individuals and organizations located in different countries. These organizations collect funds from sympathizers and organizers. So sympathizers can be both individuals and organizations. So they collect funds from those sympathizers located in different countries. Financial transactions of terrorist organizations are have similar features as of any commercial organizations. So these organizations transactions have similar features of any commercial organizations or businesses. How many stages are there in terrorist funding cycle? So there are 4 stages in terrorist funding cycle. Those are rising, moving, storing, and using. In rising, funds are raised from sympathizers or any other organizations. In moving stage, funds are moved to safe locations. And in storing stage, funds are stored for funds are stored for conducting funds are stored safely at that safe locations. Fourth stage, using. In this stage, funds are used to implement the terrorist activity. Earlier we discussed that in money laundering cycle, 3 stages are there. When it comes to terrorist funding cycle, 4 stages are there. So you need to remember the difference. how many types of principal sources are there for terrorist financing? There are three types of principal sources are there. First one, state financing. Second one, legitimate modes. Third one, private funding. So coming to state financing, so here separate entities are created with organizational and financial support of the state. So here financed terrorism organizations or terrorist activities are financed by state sponsorship. So these organizations are outwardly distanced from the state and typically engaged in some charitable or social activity is on significant scale. For example, one NGO is there. So that NGO's role is to perform financial literacy program in rural areas. So they have to create awareness in rural areas on financial literacy or some pandemic spread of some diseases, severe diseases. So that is the role of that NGO. This activity seems outside, but inside they do covert operations for terrorism activities. So they get quantum of funds from state sponsorship. So in this mode, quantum of funds involved is huge or large amount or significant or substantial, and these would be received in the form of grants or indirectly as donation, because they seem as NGOs for creating awareness of financial literacy, but inside performing they are involved or they do covert operations for financial, covert operations for terrorism activities. Coming to second one, legitimate modes. In this mode, funds are received in the form of contributions or donations from businesses, individuals, or some charity funds for their declared activities. So here also funds are received from businesses, individuals as charity funds. Undercurrent or inside they do covert operations or they use those funds to terrorism activities. Third one, private funding. In this mode, funds are raised through criminal activities such as bank robberies, drug trafficking, kidnapping, extortion. So here terrorists perform other criminal activities like bank robberies, drug trafficking, kidnapping, extortion, etc. So whatever they earn or receive money from these criminal activities, that money is used for performing terrorist activities or used as finance to terrorist activities. How to find out the transactions of terrorist acts? So here, how to find out the terrorist acts transactions? We have already discussed that terrorist acts do not require large quantum of funds or substantial funds. So these require nominal or low value funds. So hence for tracking such transactions, different modalities are required. Because in this case, low value transactions are involved. Most of the players are innocent people as uh, treated or performed as remitters and beneficiaries. So in both cases, innocent people are involved, and also low value transactions are involved. So it is difficult to find out those transactions, and also the challenge is greater because very little information is available on the techniques adopted by the terrorist for this purpose. But paying attention to the locations and certain types of customers may be useful. In cities, some particular locations or particular type of customers are involved in criminal activities. Generally, all areas are not involved in criminal activities. Only few locations or few areas are involved in criminal activities. Paying attention to those locations and such a type of customers is useful to find out the transactions of terrorist acts. Timely intervention in such transactions may be useful to the government, intelligence, and security agencies. How to find out the transactions of terrorist organizations? By conducting or performing proper due diligence and appropriate transaction monitoring provide very useful information. So while opening an account and while doing transaction, proper due diligence should be done, and also proper monitoring should be done. Then only transactions can be identified or detected or find from the terrorist organizations, and also have appropriate controls to avoid name gets associated with terrorist organizations. If any organization's name gets associated with the terrorist organizations, there should be control. They should have appropriate controls. Appropriate controls. What are common or typical sources of illegal money? Drug trafficking, organized crime, example extortion, prostitution, loan sharking, kidnapping, contract killing, gambling, protection money, adulteration, bank frauds, corruption, etc. Slush funds maintained by big corporation, example bribery, payment to political parties or politicians, etc. International trafficking in arms, international trafficking in human beings, smuggling, tax evasion. So these are the common or typical sources of illegal money. So here, this why does tax evasion become illegal? Because the modalities adopted for evasion of tax on legal income are similar to those adopted by criminals to launder their illegal money. There is, however, still divergence of views among various countries on considering tax evasion as a predicate offense for money laundering. Money laundering. In some countries, tax evasion is also treated as illegal. In some countries, it is not considered. But why it has put into common or typical source of illegal money? For example, one trust is established. So this trust is just for namesake. So there is no physical existence of this trust. Taxpayers used to deposit or put funds in that trust as a donation. Again, they receive money from that tax.